Ready for us? Okay. Hey, Fusion family. My name is Steve.
Anna.
This is my wife, Anna. I just found out a couple of days ago that this year in December, we're actually celebrating our 13th year of marriage. I can't believe that it's been that long. We've known each other, I think, for half of our lives now, right?
Yes.
I think we met originally when we were 17 years old. For those of you that don't know the story, I knocked on her door in Humboldt Park, and I asked her if she was coming.
Sunday.
Yep, I asked her if she was coming to church the next day. It was a Goldfish Sunday. Everybody that came to church got a free goldfish to go home with, and yours truly actually ate a goldfish on the bus that day.
Swallow one, yes.
Swallowed it whole. I don't recommend, but it really wasn't that bad.
If you guys want to see that.
No, I'm not doing it again in Fusion, so don't ask. We have two beautiful girls. Our oldest is Madison. She is how old?
She's going to be 11.
She'll be 11 here shortly. And then the youngest, if you know her, I refer to her as our demon child. Her name is Mackenzie, and she is
4 years old.
4 years old. See, that's why I have to ask her, because I don't always remember, and I want to make sure that I get it right. So we just want to thank you all for being here tonight. We're super excited to get to share this lesson with you and kind of speak with you a little bit about what we're going over today. We are going to be speaking on the topic of married but living a single life. You want to read the scripture verse we're going to get into?
Yeah, sure. Let's read Matthew 19:6. If I can find it. Matthew 19:6 says, So they are no longer two, but one flesh. Therefore, what God has joined together, let no one separate.
And for those of you who maybe that verse sounds familiar, that's actually the Fusion theme verse that we have. So what we want to do is we want to go through tonight and explain to you and chat with you just a few minutes about a particular incident that happened in our life. Mm-hmm. Talk about some ways that maybe if you recognize that you might be in a similar situation, and at the very end we're going to try and give you some practical steps on how to walk through it. But to set the stage, essentially what happened is a number of years ago, before we started coming to New Life, we went through a period of our marriage where slowly over a roughly 3-year-long period, we got to the point where at the end of this time, we actually, would you say we were living essentially completely separate lives. We were essentially were living under
a single life.
Right, we were living a single life under the same roof, but just passerbys in the night, really. And so what we're hoping to do today is we're hoping to give you a couple of steps and a couple of pointers that we want you to pay attention to. If any of these steps are recognizable to you, if you're noticing that maybe in your life you are feeling like you are in these particular spots, we want to encourage you that just coming to Fusion alone is not going to solve these particular issues, because this is a deep one.
Yes.
We would really encourage you to seek somebody out, a couple that you can go to and have some deeper conversations outside of Fusion to really help pull you out of this. Because like I said, we were in this, if you want to call it a crazy cycle, we were in this crazy cycle for 3 years. And it really got to the point where we said, okay, we're ready to either get a divorce. Mm-hmm. That's the bad D word.
Yes.
We were either ready to get a divorce or we had to find a way to work it out. So we're going to go through some of that stuff with you. So we've got 5 steps that I want you to pay attention to. There are 5 things that if you feel like you are having any of these issues in your life or in your marriage right now, we're going to ask you to, like I said, seek some help to help get you out of that crazy cycle right now. What's step number 1, babe?
Step number 1, you and your spouse live 2 separate lives, completely separate lives.
Yeah, and so, like I said, it didn't start off this way when we got into our time where we were arguing and fighting back and forth with each other for all this time. But like I said, at the very end, it got to the point where we essentially were not communicating with each other at all.
I was doing my thing, he was doing his own thing, and it was just like roommates living in the same house. Right,
and we really were only like that because we were married. Mm-hmm. Like, I had my work, I buried myself in work. She had stuff at home. We had a daughter. We had one daughter at that time. So she would bury herself in that. And essentially, we were just like 2 completely separate people. So if you're finding yourself in that spot where you're feeling like I'm not really having any kind of actual connection with my spouse on a regular basis, there's a chance that you might be living a single life.
Yes.
Number 2?
The second one is lack of respect for each other.
So this was a big point for us, I think, and you can speak to it if you like a little bit more. But during this time, especially, the respect for the role that each of us played within the marriage was no longer there. Because we were living life as single folks, essentially, we tried to do everything on our own during that time. And there was no more of this, she has her role, I have my role, and we're going to work together in tandem to show something to our children or leave a legacy behind to the generation after us. It simply was just, we're going to do things on our own. You want to say anything about that?
Yeah, like if you're making decisions without your spouse, that is not a respectful thing. Like, let's say you cook dinner for your kids and you just don't cook for him because, you know what, he made me mad and I'm not really feeling it. Well, guess what? You are living a single life because you have to have respect for your husband.
Yeah, and there also could be simple things as far as making decisions together. It could be as simple as if you and your spouse, maybe there's no communication as far as where or when you're spending your money.
Yes,
maybe
that's a
if
big
one
one.
of your spouses is so comfortable that they're willing to go to the bank or wherever and make a huge purchase without conferring with the
Yes.
other one, that could be a really big red flag. Finances often has been cited as a huge leader into divorce. And so if you guys are at that point where, he says, I have my money in my bank account, she says, I have my money in my bank account, I don't really need to confer with you or chat with you about it, that might be a really big red flag.
Yes. And for a stay-home mom, sometimes we think, oh, well, that's only his money. No, it's not only his money. That's your money as well because you stay with the kids and, he goes to work. So therefore, you guys are a team together.
Right, and I want to refer back to the verse that we read in Matthew, that again, the two of us are becoming together in one. So it really doesn't matter at the end of the day who made the money,
Yes.
who's bringing it in, who's not bringing it in. None of that stuff matters. What matters is the two of you now have become one person. And so all of your decision making, the respect that you show to each other needs to be made in one accord. And if it's not, then I definitely would encourage you to pay attention to the red flags that you might be seeing in your marriage.
Yes. Third one, investing all your time in everyone else but not your spouse. That's a deep one.
Yeah, you want to elaborate on that at all?
Yes, like let's say, your husband's working, he's all investing in his work or even ministry. Sometimes, are lost in the ministry. That is a big flag where, you don't have any time for your spouse. That I beg you guys, just make some time for each other, invest in your marriage, invest in your family, and yeah.
Yeah, so this was a big one for me as well, because even during the time when we were going through this period in our life, the reason we were even in this period to begin with was because of me. I made a mistake in our marriage, and I made a mistake that set off a trigger for her that I didn't realize that I set off at that time. And it started us down this path. Again, it started small and it snowballed into something much bigger. But we were still going to church during this time.
Yes.
So it's not like we had totally turned our back on the church and we weren't reading our Bibles. That was not the case. We were in church every single week. And so I was finding ways over time more and more to not only spend more time at work and invest more in work, but I also was spending a whole lot more time at the church or involved in different ministries at my church. And I used that as an excuse to not go home because I knew once I went home,
Yes.
there was no respect, there was no love. We were two completely different people, essentially. And I knew that it was just going to be a battleground and I did not want to go there.
Correct.
Do you want to add anything else to that? Any other points?
No.
Okay. Got to double check.
The fourth one we want to talk about is sleeping in separate beds, rooms, or
Well, so I know what you guys are thinking. If you're sleeping in two completely separate beds in the same house, I think you've already gotten the point that you probably are having some major issues
Yes.
in your marriage. That's not only what I'm talking about. Now, if you are there, again, please find somebody to help out. There are plenty of places where you can get some help. But what we're talking about in this context is if there is no affection at home, when the two of you get together, or whenever I see you, even if it's in public, maybe you say, I'm not a big PDA kind of person. That's fine. I can still see you holding your wife's hand, right?
Yes.
And more importantly than that to me is if you are in Fusion and with us today, and if you have kids,
yes,
your children in public and at home need to see the way that a man should love a woman. There's almost not many greater gifts that you can give to your children than us as fathers showing our daughters or showing our sons how to love and treat our wives. It's one of the greatest things that you can give them, besides a godly heritage, right? And teaching them all those things. But they need to see it. And if you're living as single people under the same roof, I guarantee you, because I've been there, they're not going to see any affection. All they're going to see as soon as they see the two of you in the same room together is arguing and fighting. And eventually, over time, they learn to hate the both of you, and they have huge disdain for the both of you because that they know that that is not right, but they feel helpless because there's nothing that they can do. So again, I would encourage you, don't let yourself get to that point where there's no affection at all being shown, and make it a priority. Wouldn't you say it is important to make it a priority to find ways to show affection to your spouse?
Yes.
Figure out what their love languages are, study them, pay attention to them. And maybe it's not holding hands. Maybe that's not the love language that your spouse speaks, because hers have changed recently. Maybe it's something else, but find out whatever those things are so that way she can understand that you are showing her affection and your kids can see it. Would
And
you
vice
agree?
versa, yeah, for the wife as well, to show the husband respect, love around your kids as well. So your daughters can see how to treat a man, how to love him, and how to respect him. And so, yes, we advise you guys to just baby steps. I know that a lot of you guys are struggling right now, and maybe you're going through some of these stuff, and we just wanted you to do baby steps and just
Just what?
oh gosh, I blanked out. Never mind, go ahead.
All right, so what's the next step? Step number 5.
Number 5 is too much tension.
Yeah. How many of you have been
Fighting,
there before?
arguing,
Have you guys ever been there before? Like
throwing chanclas. You know what I
Leave
mean? I'm
the la
just
chancla
kidding.
alone. No chanclas, okay? No knives, no pans, no none of that stuff. We're
No,
not
but
chucking anything.
seriously, like,
Yeah, seriously.
Yeah.
No chanclas.
because we got to that point.
But have you ever been in that situation where you walk home, or maybe us guys, like if you're the one who's out working, or ladies, maybe you're the one who's working, you're on the drive home, and like you can already, the closer that you get to home, you can already start to feel like, I know as soon as I open that door in my house, like you're gonna be able to cut the tension with a knife.
Yes.
And if you're in that spot, let me tell you right now, that is not how it is supposed to be.
Yes.
Coming home is supposed to be an enjoyable experience for the both of you. And it takes the both of you to set the environment when you're at home. And so if you're in a spot like that where you're having tension, where you know as soon as you walk through the door, like this is just going to be a fight, I think for 2.5 years straight, we fought literally, and I'm not exaggerating, we literally fought about something stupid
Yes,
every
every
single
day.
day for 2.5 years. So I just got to the point where, to be honest with you, I was mentally checked out. I was done. I did not want to do it anymore. It was no longer, I got to a scary place where it was no longer worth the fight. She was no longer worth the fight to me, and that was a rough spot to be in. So I'm going to turn it over to you now, Aniele, to let you explain a little bit, because the whole reason why we were able to come out of that particular period was because of some changes that you made. So for those that are watching, maybe they can feel some of these different points. Maybe that's where they're at right now in their life. What are some practical steps that they can take in order to come out of this season in their life?
I think one of the practical things that I realized going through this, like, yes, I was arguing with you, I was getting in your face. And to be honest with you, I was trying to change my husband. I was trying to change who he was because I didn't like the way he was. And at that moment, I felt like, you know what? I have nobody to change my husband.
Yeah.
The only person who can change my husband is God. So I know that this sounds like you can hear, you guys probably hear it so much and so often that, you have to be in prayer. You have to give your husband to God. And that's what I chose to do that time. And to be honest with you, it wasn't like when I chose to give Stephen to Jesus because that's who he belongs to, I felt like my heart and my respect for him shifted. And no longer was I trying to change him, but just praying for him, praying for God to work in his heart. Just the changes you want to see in your husband. God hears you and God knows your heart. So I just beg you, to whatever situation that you're facing right now, just leave it to God and just get some help too. So, and that's, I think, that some of the stuff that we did, we got some help.
Yeah, and I can tell you for sure that when she made this change, it was an attitude change that I recognized in her
Yeah.
right away. I realized and I recognized that when I was coming home and I was dealing with her one-on-one and talking to her one-on-one, then she was no longer trying to change me, and she was allowing the Lord to do that as well. So again, I would encourage you guys to do that. Coming to Fusion alone is not going to solve these problems for you. But
this is a
giving it
great tool.
Right. Fusion is a great tool, but giving it to God, loving your spouse, husbands, love your wife as Christ loved the church. Wives, show respect to your husband, give them to the Lord. Don't try to change him, because it's not going to happen. Anyways, we hope that this video was helpful for you. We
Yes.
hope that you guys get some good pointers out of it, and you have some great discussions within your groups. Thank you for watching, and God bless.
Bye.